I didn't see you there. Welcome to another Star Citizen video. Welcome back, folks. This is going to be just a quick overview of Invictus. I mean, how could I go to sleep without doing an Invictus video? I mean, it doesn't matter what time it is. It's Invictus. You have to stay up for Invictus. All right? So I don't know if I'm gonna buy anything. I actually got something special in my little inbox. If I'm not mistaken, I believe CIG, and I'm waiting for confirmation of this, but I believe CIG has granted me my first ships to give away. I'm not 100% certain, but I think they may have given me ships to give away. And whether that's what they gave me ships for or not, or maybe it's for some event that I wasn't aware about, I'm still gonna give ships away. So it doesn't matter, but it doesn't matter for you because you're still gonna get the ships. I'm still gonna give away the ships either way, but it's still pretty cool. I think it's kind of like, I don't know. Does that mark my arrival as a official Star Citizen YouTuber? I guess. Now that CIG is giving me a ship to give away, but I think it's just really cool. Like I've always loved the community of Star Citizen, and you know, I feel like, you know, I have no problem purchasing the ships myself to give back, but it's really cool that CIG gave me some ships to give away. So the way that they give you the ships is a little odd. It's kind of like this combo thing, and I like to give away one ship to one person so that more people can get gifts. So again, I'm trying to verify if that's what they gave me the ships for, because I don't want to lose them by, you know, trying to give them away, you know, one by one. But also, I want to give, you know, I want to give it its due diligence, I guess. Anyway, to Invictus and beyond. So let's just take a look. Let's just hop in and look at Invictus. Oh, I didn't. One more thing. I didn't mention what the ship giveaway is going to be for this month, but it's going to be between two ships, and you have to go on the page to see what ships those are and cast your vote. It should be up by the time this video is posted. So yeah, go on there and cast your vote for which ship you want to be the giveaway, which is only in it's like in 12 days or something like that. So yeah, you know. And the thing is, all you have to do is like, subscribe, and leave a comment to enter. So hey, there's not that many videos this month, so, and the winners picked from videos this month, so got a pretty good chance this month. All right, let's go. So we've got, as you can see here, Robert Space Industries, Origin Jump Works, Consolidated Outland, and Argo Astronautics. All right, these are the new ships. The Ursa Medac, I'll have a different video coming out for that. I won't do a review. It's just kind of gonna be a breakdown, going through the Q&A of like what's in it a little bit. I'll save the actual review for when I get to the RSI ships. Polaris is in game. It's just you can't fly it. I mean, I don't think you can fly it. I think you could just see it. But if anybody's flown it, hey, drop a comment and let us know how it was flying it. I haven't seen anybody fly it yet though. And also there's some other ships, but we'll just go through the whole thing. All right, so let's start here at the Apollo Medevac. There's 16 ships on sale right now. This is day one. I believe the event goes on for 2 weeks this year, which I believe this is the first time that they've done it for 2 weeks. But the Apollo Medevac, to me, so you have the Apollo Medevac and the Apollo Triage, right? So to me, the ship to get would be the Apollo Medevac in this scenario, but it depends on what you need, right? So if you want the Apollo Medevac, that means you care more about armor and getting shot at. And the Apollo Triage is going to be more about speed. I'm going to guess that because it's less armored, it's going to be a little faster. So I'm gonna guess that it depends on which one you want. Like, are you going into heavier combat normally to pick people up, or are you, and do you think that they'll shoot at the medical ship, or do you, plan on going into, fairly safe areas, and you could flip flop that, right? Like, you could say I can get out of harm's way faster, or am I, maybe I don't care as much about being, a great pilot or being fast, and I just want to make sure I don't explode and get my people to safety, right? So depends on what you're looking for. I think 275 and 250 are pretty good for these ships because they're basically like mobile clinics. So they're not full-fledged hospitals, but they can do most of what a hospital does. So, it's to me like it's the first level of medical gameplay where you get all of the medical gameplay. I think I'm trying to just think of like what would a hospital be able to provide better. Maybe you don't get the little suit, like the auto suit that you get when you respawn or something. I don't know. But now that they're changing medical gameplay, which if you haven't heard, they're changing medical gameplay to where for a tier 3 bed, if you're 20 kilometers away for a tier 3 medical bed, you will respawn. You will respawn at that medical bed rather than all the way back at base, which is huge. That's going to make doing bunkers and all this other stuff so much more fun because you don't have to like worry about, oh my God, I died. Now I got to go and get another ship and I got to do all of this and I got to reclaim and I got to like, it would take 20 minutes for you to get back to where you were just because you died. So I don't know if they're going to keep that, but it is a welcome change to me. I think that it probably should be 10 meters or 10 kilometers, not 10 meters, 10 kilometers for a tier 3 bed. I want tier 3 beds to like have a very difficult time respawning because I think that gives the tier 2 bed that much more purpose, because right now the tier 2 bed is 20 kilometers and the tier 3 bed is 20 kilometers and the tier 2 bed is 50 kilometers, where I would rather that be 10 kilometers for the tier 3 and then 50 kilometers for the tier 2. And I think that would make it a lot more like dangerous for tier 3 bed owners, and it would make the tier 2, I guess, give it a little bit more status, but they got time to balance it. So my guess is tier 1 beds will be able to respawn anywhere or at least 100 kilometers. I think tier 1 beds should be able to respond wherever you are. And I think that would be a huge boon to tier 1 beds. And the Apollo Medevac can have tier 1 beds in it. I think that would be something that would make people want tier 1 beds because they can respawn anywhere. So yeah, Apollo Medevac if you want more armor, Triage if you want, a little bit more speed. I think both are excellent ships. I can't wait to review those ships. I'm hoping that they're in game by CitizenCon. Or at the very least by IAE. So we'll see. The Aurora, the good old fashioned Aurora. Now this is the LN, so I think this one's got a few more missiles and stuff, but I'm not a big fan of keeping the Aurora, but I do understand why people choose it as their first ship. It's really cheap. It's decent. If you're really good at flying, you could actually do some decent damage with the Aurora. I just think there's better starter ships. I'd start with an Avenger Titan. I think that's one of the better starter ships. Start with a cutter. You could even take a little. I think you could take a STV with you if you got a cutter. So, I think there's better ships. But I can't argue with anybody buying a cheap ship because it's a cheap ship. So hey, the Constellation Andromeda. So the Constellation series, I think, is going to get one of those updates that just makes people be like, I wish I bought it sooner. And I think what's going to happen is before they update it, before they finally update this ship, because I do think it'll be one of the later ships that they update. But we're moving towards 4.0, so I think they're trying to bring everything to gold standard at this point. So I think we'll get the updates this year. But I think when it gets updated, people are gonna wish they bought these ships. The Andromeda is a beast. It's like the overall beast, kinda. Whereas, and then you have the Aquila or Aquila, however you say it, which is the exploration one. And then you have the Phoenix, which is the luxury one, the touring one. And then you have the Taurus, which is the freight, the cargo hauler. So to me, the best deal, the best deal out of these is the Taurus. It's $200. I believe, yeah, this one's $240. So yeah, the Taurus is $240. It can cargo haul. It keeps a lot of the same weapons. To me, it's the best deal, like for dollar. However, the best one overall is probably the Aquila, because the Aquila has the sensors, and it has the different front to it. So I don't know. I don't think you can really go wrong. So I have a hard time choosing which one is the best. Like the Andromeda is kind of the best overall. The Aquila is kind of, you know, the Aquila is the best overall. I think the Tor or the Andromeda is like the kind of jack of all trades, and you know, the Phoenix is actually meant to be the top of the line one, and it has windows which are really cool. And I think when it's all said and done, I think the Phoenix is actually going to be a really well done ship, but just right now I don't think it's well done. I have a Phoenix Emerald just because I like shiny things, but don't use me as your example, because if you do, you will have less money in the bank. A lot less money in the bank. All right, let's move on though. The RSI links. So the links, to me, I like the way it looks, man. And maybe it's just me, but I really like the way it looks. And I hope, I know this is meant to be like a luxury ship, but I hope that they do alternatives to this. Like, I want the links to have the same versions of stuff that the Ursa has, but I don't know if it'll get that, because I think it's really just meant to be a luxury rover, you know. But hey, you know, we can hope. But I like the links. I like the way it looks. I plan on, like, I think it needs a better roll though. I think the link should be faster than the Ursa, but not as fast as like a Tumbril Nova, or I mean, not a Tumbril Nova, a Tumbril Cyclone. So I think it should be a little bit faster, just to kind of give it something, or maybe more armored because it's protecting VIPs. So I don't know what their end goal is with it, but I feel like it should have one of those two things to kind of make it worth, you know, the price difference. I guess it's only $5 though, so I don't know. I just feel like it needs a purpose. I know transporting VIPs, maybe they'll rate you on your experience, and maybe you get more reputation if you use luxury vehicles rather than just regular vehicles. Maybe it's like, you know, maybe if you gain 100 rep points normally, like that's what you get just for doing an average job, and maybe that just requires using one luxury transport, and then maybe if the entire experience from like door to door or airport to airport, wherever they're going from point A to point B, if the entire experience is luxury, maybe you get 200 reputation points or something like that. So I feel like that's the way luxury transport is going to work. If you own the luxury ships and you keep your guest, or the person you're transporting, your VIP, if you keep them in luxury vehicles, maybe that improves the experience for them, and then you get better ratings, and then you get paid more by the next VIP. So right now, I think I have a way of doing all of this. I think I have a ship at every level. So I have the Lynx, and then I have a G12, which I don't know if that counts as luxury. So I'll just say I have the Lynx. But then I can transport them in my 400i short distances. And then if that's not good enough, I have the 600i. And I feel like I have the, you know, in between those two I guess would be the Phoenix. So I got a lot of different ways. And I don't even own those for luxury transport, but I feel like I could still pull the missions off. And that's kind of the way I built out my fleet, to be able to pull off all that stuff. All right, so here we have the Mantis, which is going to be huge now, because I think what the Mantis does now is it has the ability to completely keep you from going into nav mode. Like, I don't even think you can switch into nav mode if the Mantis has you locked. So yeah, that's huge. Now, what is it going to be able to do to you while you're stuck with it? Not much, because the guns on it are pretty crappy. But if this thing is in a little small fleet of ships and they're attacking you, and this thing keeps you from going into nav mode, you got to stay and fight. So if you have a trash ship, or a trash ship at combat at least, this is going to be a rough time for you. This is going to be a very rough time. So yeah. Then we have the Perseus. So the Perseus, to me, is one of those ships that if you own it, it invalidates a lot of other ships you own, because the Perseus is going to be one heck of a fighter. But I think it's paired well with the Hammerhead. So I think this is the defensive version of the Hammerhead. Like the Hammerhead is going to be like, we shoot at smaller ships, and we shoot at fighters, right? And the Perseus is going to be like, we shoot at large ships and even some capitals. But I also think this one's going to be more armored than the Hammerhead. So I think this is going to be more defensive. Like, it's going to be able to take a little bit more of a punch. Yeah, I think this is going to be one of the most well-armored ships in the game. I think it's going to be maybe second to like the Idris, the Idris and Javelin. It'll probably be behind those, of course, but I still think this is going to be one of the most heavily armored ships in the game. And I think that's where you have to really make your choices. Like, do you want a more defensive ship with the Perseus, or do you want a more offensive ship with the Polaris? Because I think the Polaris is that's kind of what you're choosing. Like, are you choosing, the more of the armor, or like the shielding, because Polaris is going to have a capital shield that you have to eat through first to even get to its hull, right? But the Polaris has the better offensive capabilities, whereas and it's larger, but the Perseus has the better defensive capabilities. And I have a whole video of the Polaris versus the Perseus, so I won't go through all that stuff again. But the Polaris is one of my favorite ships in the game. The Polaris is a base. It's offensive. It's got capital shields. It can get away from most things. It has a ton of fuel. It is an overall just amazing ship. I don't think anybody who buys a Polaris is going to be upset with what they get. I think there's going to be maybe some people who get the Idris and they're going to be disappointed. And I think the Idris is probably one of the best ships in the game, if not the best ship in the game. But it's huge. And I think people are going to be disappointed with how huge it is, because it's going to take them forever just to walk around it. And I don't think they prep their mind for what that experience is going to be like. Whereas the Polaris is a lot smaller. Well, it's not a lot smaller, but it's smaller significantly than the Idris. And I think it's going to be a lot easier to walk around in and control the troops, so to speak. And, it's got medical capabilities. I think the Polaris is going to be one of those ships that everybody who owns one is a happy camper. So, is that it? Oh, we've got the Scorpius. The Scorpius? How could I almost forget about the Scorpius? So the Scorpius is a ship that has grown on me, actually getting to be behind, be in the gunner seat for one and fly one for a little bit. This ship has actually kind of grown on me. I think the Scorpius you need 2 pilots, pure and simple. Like, if you don't have 2 pilots, do not take the Scorpius, please. Please don't take the Scorpius. That ship is meant for 2 people. And that's why I feel like a lot of people get in it and they're like, oh, the Scorpius isn't that great. The Scorpius is great. Okay. You just have to have 2 people. but I feel like if I'm going to get in a ship with 2 people, it's between this and the Hurricane. So we'll have to see when I get to that review, and I'll probably do a comparison of those 2, because that's what it seems like. All right, and then the Scorpius Antares. I don't think the second pilot in this one has anything to do right now, but I don't know if that's because, I think that's just because I don't think the gameplay is in yet. But I also don't know if I'm giving up my, I guess if I'm looking at the Scorpius Antares, then I also have to be looking at the Zeus MR, because I should be deciding, what do I really want my role to be, right? Whereas I think the Antares is more able to it's meant to shoot at something and keep it from operating, whereas I think the Antares is meant to stop you in your tracks. So, but I guess you got to really figure out what your role is. I don't know if I would take the Antares as is. I think I would wait for that gameplay to come in first, and then I would maybe take the Antares. But right now, to me, it's the Scorpius. Just be careful, because those wing guns can get shot off fairly quickly, and if they get shot off, you're gonna have a hard time. But that's why I say you need 2 pilots, because if your wing guns get shot off and you still have that second pilot, you still can shoot. So I like it. Then the Ursa, good old-fashioned Ursa. This has been, a lot of people say this is the best ground vehicle in the game. I think the Cyclone is the best ground vehicle in the game. But then again, I haven't driven the Ursa as much as I've driven the Cyclone, so maybe I need to give it a few more goes. But I think the Ursa is one of the best, if not the best. I mean, maybe we'll say it's a tie of the ground vehicles in the game. If you're going to buy a ground vehicle outside the game, it should be, right now, the Ursa and the Cyclone. Those are really the only 2 that I suggest buying outside the game if you're going to buy them, just because of both of them are so incredibly useful, right? But they're so cheap in the game that I'm like, I don't see why anybody would buy these outside the game. But at the same time, if you happen to be willing to spend the money, maybe you have the extra money and you just want LTI on everything, I don't think you're going to be upset if you get an Ursa or a Cyclone. And yeah, the Ursa's on sale. So let's get to this one. Yeah, this one's new. The Ursa Medevac. So this one is actually a long time coming. So there have been people who've wanted an Ursa Medevac for at least 7 years. At least 7. And that's just as far as I know. I'm sure there's some people that have probably been asking for longer than that. But just as far as I know, people have wanted it since at least 2017. At least 2017. So, yeah. It's finally here. It's a tier 3 bed inside of an Ursa. This is going to change the game. So, being able to put an Ursa inside of most vehicles is already... not most vehicles, most ships. You can put an Ursa in most ships that can carry cargo, right? A decent, medium freight at least. So now you can basically put a tier 3 bed in any of those ships, right? Now, I do think the Medevac is a little bit smaller than the C8. So I think, because it doesn't have the wingspan and stuff. So I think the Medevac's going to be able to fit in even more places than the C8 can, which makes it to where when we had this whole conversation about, ships that don't have a med bed in it, right? For instance, one of my favorite ships is the A2, and it doesn't have a med bed. But I can imagine parking a Ursa Medevac in that thing and leaving it there and literally never taking it out. And now my A2 is a beast, the beast that I've always wanted, right? So I am super excited for the Ursa Medevac. So excited that I might actually buy one and put some LTI on it, just because I feel like being able to just be like, lift up my whatever ship, because I think pretty much all my ships can fit this. I don't think I have a single ship that can't fit this. No, I have smaller ships. I have like F7A Mark II, and so like, yeah, I have some smaller ships that don't have cargo at all, but any ship that I have that can carry cargo can fit this in it. So yeah, this is gonna be a must-have for me. And I don't know if I want to worry about whether I paid my insurance on it and keep rebuying it. I think I'd rather just be done with the headache. I think this will be, as of right now, you know, I just got done talking about the Tumble Cyclone, but I think as of right now, this is the most useful vehicle in the game. You can respawn into this vehicle if it's 20 kilometers away. You can't do that with any other vehicle. So there you have it. Get yourself an Ursa Medevac if you don't have one. Yeah. And let's see. Oh yeah, this is the last one. The Zeus Mark II MR. So again, I do think it is a different purpose than the Antares, but it's also $50, $40 cheaper. I think it's $40 cheaper. And I don't know. I like the look of it more than the Antares. I think it's better for crew. You know, it has an interior. Like, I don't know. I'm a bigger fan of the ships with interiors. But again, maybe I'm getting their roles a little mixed up. I just think right now, if I'm picking between the two, I'd get the Mark II MR. But we'll have to compare them once they're both out and into the universe. So we'll see. But yeah, that is day one of Invictus launch week. And let's see what else they got. You could buy a Polaris with 10-year insurance. 10-year insurance is the closest you're going to get to LTI outside of, you know, doing upgrades to the Polaris. So 10 years, I mean, if you ask me, 10 years is just as good as LTI. I mean, if you play this game for 10 years, I think you've played it enough to where you've got your value out of it. So like if you paid $750 for a ship, that's $75 a year for 10 years. I think you got your value out of it, you know. So I think 10-year insurance is pretty much as good as LTI. But it also begs the question, like, CIG, look, I guarantee you, if you sell LTI for $100, add LTI to any ship just for $100, I guarantee you, you will make millions. There are people who just want to add LTI to something really basic, and they'll still pay $100 to add it. $100. I'm telling you, you could make so much money off this. Now, do I think the price should be $100? No. I think the price should be maybe $25. Because you've said it yourself that LTI isn't that important. But maybe you could scale it based on the ship that is being applied to. So maybe all ships under $100, adding LTI to those is $10. Then you go up $10 for every 100. So, you know, by the time you get to 1,000, it's $100 for LTI. That would make sense. You could just scale it that way. But either way, I think you would make millions. Well, maybe not millions plural, but a million. Because I know people who would hop on that very quickly. Because people just want to put LTI on their ships, you know. And I think it's just a cool thing to do. Anyway, let's see. They got some gear packs from RSI. They got some merch, and yeah, that's about it. Seems like a decent event. I'm waiting to see what else they got. There's another ship, if you haven't seen it already. There's the what is it called? The Saber Firebird, which is like a missile gunboat kind of thing. A missile boat? Do you call it a missile boat? Yeah, let's call it a missile boat. But it's got a bunch of missiles. It does have guns as well, but it's kind of like, it looks very similar to the Saber Raven. I think it's kind of their way of saying, hey, the Saber Raven is kind of locked behind a contract, so if you want a Saber Raven, here's the best we can do. So yeah, I'll go over that when we get to that one, but it looks kind of meh to me. I like the way it looks. So the looks of it seem pretty cool to me, but I also am not a big fan of missile ships. But I also haven't played a lot of missile, combat while being in master modes. So I want to try it in master modes before I like give it its final, warning. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm actually looking forward to getting in game a lot, probably the end of this month after the 23rd. I'll probably be getting in a lot more. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this one. Thanks for spending your time with us. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.